Calaroga Shark Media.
Hello, I'm Johnny Mac with today's Daily Comedy News, and I'm here to call out Taylor Swift. Taylor Swift, how dare you with this clip? I mean, the idea of somebody making fun of Taylor Swift being shown at sports events, you're going to make fun of that now? Here, let's listen.
I think we all know that if there's one thing that male sports fans want to see in their spaces and on their screens, it's more of me.
Now, Taylor, you might remember Joe Coy made a totally harmless joke, and you didn't laugh at it, you didn't smile, you just stone-faced him. Let's listen.
The big difference between the Golden Globes and the NFL, on the Golden Globes, we have fewer camera shots of Taylor Swift.
Taylor, you made the same joke. Swifties, feel free to call me out. Just make sure you guys download the podcast while I'm getting in trouble with the Swifties. I appreciate it. Marc Maron was the feature piece in the Hollywood Reporter. I shared that in the Facebook group, which is Daily Comedy News Podcast Group. Feel encouraged to join us. Conan O'Brien said of Maron, sometimes the complete artist is there, they just need to find the medium. He was very funny on television, but for whatever reason, he needed to be in the wilderness for a while. The podcast was the perfect place for his freak flag to fly at full mast. Maron tells the Reporter things are better before everybody had a voice. Now there's just hundreds of groups of 2 or 3 white guys sitting behind mics talking about the last time they crapped their pants as adults. We live in a world of mediocre afternoon drive time radio. He's not wrong, I say as I podcast solo from the basement. Bobby Lee says Mark became the light showing you where to go after Hollywood closed the door. Once Mad TV was canceled, things weren't clicking for me, so I followed his footsteps. He taught me the ropes and it reinvented my career. Maron says, out of a persistent insecurity or spite, I just compare myself to people that are more successful than I am or people I've decided are more successful. I don't always understand why I'm not more successful. I'm starting to. We also learned that after Obama came to the garage, a lot more people asked to be on Maron's show. One of them, Hillary Clinton, who was turned down. Producer Brendan McDonald recalls telling Maron, "You're the guy to do this." He adamantly disagreed. Maron said the success rate of getting to a candid place with politicians is very small. And I think this is somebody, Clinton, who's divisive and controversial and has a history that's somewhat sordid, not by any fault of her own, but I just didn't see where I could go with that. As somewhat of a podcasting expert, I thought this part was interesting. It says the decision to end WTF came in October as they entered the final year of their distribution deal with Acast, knowing that taking the podcast further with any partner would involve concessions they weren't willing to make. Quote, more advertising and the pressure for spin-offs are among his reservations, but particularly offensive to Maron is the industry-wide expectation to put everything on camera. Maron says a lot of yammering in makeshift studios. It's lowering the bar for everything. The Hollywood Reporter brought up Dax Shepard, a specific episode in 2019 in which Maron suggested podcasting might be becoming a cancer. Maron said that was before he sort of became me. The Hollywood Reporter's like, what do you mean by that? Maron, I have a model that I established. There are certain people that work within that model, and I think Dax is one of them. I opened up a zone within this medium just before it became really viable. That's what I think. I'll pick more of that on Sunday. This next item is going to be a nightmare for me. Kevin Hart, who's never afraid to work, he's got a new gig. He's teaming up with Netflix for a new comedy competition series. 8 episodes, a, quote, unfiltered, uncensored, and unapologetic comedy rule of 3 competition that will pull back the curtain on the gritty, hilarious, and often unpredictable path, comedy rule of 3, of a stand-up career. Contestants from all across the nation will face rigorous tests that mirror the real-life journey of a comedian. From brutal open mics, bomb sets, rewrites, and the pressure of big stage performances, the competition will give viewers an unvarnished look behind the curtain of comedy's darkest corners. These are annoying. They're comparing it to Last Comic Standing, and when I was running serious comedy, Last Comic Standing was a nightmare because I'd walk down the hall and they'd be like, hey, did you see so-and-so? And I'd have to explain, now if you listen to this podcast, you understand comedy, and I would have to explain, yeah, so-and-so killed, but do they have 5 minutes? Do they have 8 minutes? Do they have half an hour? Do they have an hour? No, they have 30 seconds. And then I would get asked why I didn't play these people. Because they have no material. It'd be like, why am I not playing somebody from TikTok? Because they have no material. Late Nighter wrote about Devin Walker's special, which is produced by Kevin Hart's production company, Heartbeat. Walker covers family, exes, life at SNL, and the phenomenon of people expecting him to be funny on command. That one's out on Hulu today. This one is a 30-minute set. Walker says there's one joke in there specifically that was brand new, which is something I like to do sometimes when I do tapings. He won't tell us what the joke is, but says for people watching, maybe you'll be able to tell what the new one is. He also says there's a joke in the special that's risky to do. It might ruffle a couple feathers in the industry. It makes fun of a certain comedy star and alumni of SNL. He never says the name, says Late Nighter, but the context leaves little doubt. Walker says, sometimes you got to have lunch with your hero, really kind of feel their whole vibe. At the end of that, you get to be like, man, I see why Will Smith hit you. Gee, I wonder who it could be. Walker says, people have asked me if I was hesitant to include it. I feel like we're at a time where people feel really comfortable saying negative things about groups that already have it hard. There's so many people punching down on marginalized groups and people who are having an effed up existence right now. Why can't we get back to our roots, which is making fun of rich and famous people, the people who are doing fine ultimately? That joke in particular is one that'll probably have a couple people looking at me a little weird at certain parties, but to me, stand-up is the best when you're being as close to the truth as possible. Stand-up is always going to have some embellishments, some half-truths to accentuate the story. To me, the closer you can get to who you really are and how you really feel, the better the work will be, so I try to stay as honest as possible. He also riffs, I'm going to wait for the next white celebrity to get embroiled in a racial controversy. They're going to need to make it seem like they've got a black friend, and for the right price, that could be me. This is really funny. LOL Live with Devin Walker tonight on Hulu. That's cool. Today at 10 a.m., John Oliver's tour goes on sale, 10 a.m. local time. I know one of the shows is New Year's Eve in Philadelphia. The CBC caught up with Zarna Garg. Zarna said, people are like, why are you doing a comedy business at all? There's no money in comedy, and I realize there's no money in comedy the way American people do it. They set it up like an art form. We do it like a business, the Indians. I put my practical hat on. I was like, people want to laugh. I want to trash my mother-in-law. Let's go. You have to be serious and build your own life. I'm a very vocal, outspoken supporter of women, in particular using the M word, money, because somehow women and money together have been considered vulgar or crass, as if we don't need money to live. I learned very early in life that you have to be serious, you have to deliver value to people if you want to build something real, and luckily, I learned how to monetize my trauma. Zarna's been added to Just for Laughs Toronto, this in September in Toronto, the one in Canada. Also adds to the lineup Abby Govinden? I don't know how Abby pronounces her surname, but she is a stand-up comedian and writer based in New York. And we are told a stand-up show and solo act in one, How to Embarrass Your Immigrant Parents, is a biting and irreverent storytelling experience that explores a pertinent universal theme, wanting to understand your parents but struggling to see eye to eye. They've added Amanda Montell, the New York Times bestselling author and host of the Sounds Like a Cult podcast for The Big Magical Cult Show. Big J. Ogerson previously announced. He's there September 21st, 2 shows at 6 and 8:30. The 8:30 show is new, so that's the news there. Also added Chloe Radcliffe, Colin Tyrell, Corey B., Jacob Balshin, James Adomian at the Alternative Show. That's cool. Josh Moston, Toronto-based comedian originally from Scotland. Late Bad, a party variety show full of carefully curated comedians and surprise special guests in town for the festival. The stage is covered in balloons filled with prompts for the performers to play off, as well as 30-second dance parties, impromptu challenges, games, and so much more. Laugh Sabbath, a different show every week featuring a rotating ensemble of radical and exciting comedians. Matthew Broussard, he's been a guest on the show. He's very funny. Mojo Brooks, Brookzz. Pat Thornton, Patty Harrison, Sabrina Wu. Sunthar V, a globally touring comedian who blends sharp storytelling with cultural wit, performing in both Tamil and English. And Zarna Garg. Johnny Mac, you never mentioned Howard Stern. I know, right? The satellite radio company started airing a promo. The Hollywood Reporter says the text of the promo is, the tabloids have spoken. Howard Stern filed, canceled. Is it really bye-bye buoy? Chaos is swirling at the Howard Stern show. Did staffers talk to the press or writers withholding their best jokes? Nobody knows what's going on or who to trust. Howard Stern will speak Tuesday, September 2nd. This is what I've been saying, folks. We're talking about Howard for the first time in 15 years. This plays to his strength. He's going to drag this out all the way to December, at which point he will announce he's staying with SiriusXM and doing a farewell tour. Write it down. I have zero doubt. I have listened to Howard for 40 years. This is how this plays out. And now this plays to his strength, and he will get his fastball back because he can have a straw man enemy in the bosses at SiriusXM and the difficult renegotiations, and he will play this like a fiddle. He's really good at it. Much ado about nothing. I'll tell you, that Taylor Swift has me so upset I forgot to do the late night joke segments. President Trump in Alaska meeting with Vladimir Putin. White House Press Secretary Carolyn Leavitt described it as a listening exercise. Jimmy Fallon said, as we know, listening and exercise are Trump's 2 favorite things, so this should go well. Jimmy Fallon joked about Taylor's new album and said, following the announcement, Taylor's website immediately crashed, and then out of habit, so did Ticketmaster's. That's really good. All right, it's Friday. Let's hit the comedy stock market.
Comedy stock market.
We have a bull market today. No sells, no holds. We are going to buy. We're going to buy some more Marc Maron. We're buying a little high, but then in about a month, we're going to sell real high. People are buzzing about Marc Maron. Buy more Marc Maron stock. We're going to buy low on Howard Stern. Everybody thinks Howard's down and out. He's canceled. He's not coming back. But we're smarter than that. We're going to buy low. We'll sell high sometime this fall. Buy Howard Stern. Buy Jimmy Fallon stock. The cool kids are bashing Jimmy Fallon because he had Gutfeld on, and that episode did the best ratings in years. Jimmy Fallon plays it safe. He plays it smart. You can hate, but the man makes money. Buy Jimmy Fallon. We're going to buy stock in Josh Johnson. Dylan from the Facebook group put this idea in my head, and he's right. Josh is just crushing it, and I don't think he's quite broken through yet, so let's get on that early. On a similar note, let's buy Sarah Sherman stock. Just a hunch. I feel like she's going to be the breakout this year on SNL. Still no word on the cast changes yet, but we'll see what happens there. And one more buy recommendation before the Emmys on September 14th. Let's load up on Nate Bargatze stock. I know you know about Nate. A lot of people watch SNL know about Nate, but I feel like the average American does not. And once they get a whiff of Nate Bargatze, he's going to be at a peak high, and so we'll sell right after the Emmys. But let's buy Nate Bargatze stock, and that's today's comedy stock market. Josh Johnson, whose stock we are buying, was asked by the BBC, is social media a blessing and a curse for comedy? They were curious about the algorithm. Josh said, potentially, but I think that only happens if you get obsessed with numbers. I hold two things very top of mind when I think about any form of audience or influence. One, nobody owes me anything. Just because you came to a show or watched a video doesn't mean you have to watch the next one. I work as hard as I can to make it so you would want to, but you don't have to. The second thing is that if you're focused on the actual practice of what you're doing, you'll make better things to put online at the end of the day. And the most important thing is the show that I'm doing that night and the people that are there. Then I put things up online for the people who didn't make it to the show. But whether a million people watch it or 1,000 people watch it, the fact that the people at the show had the best time possible, that's the most powerful and beneficial relationship as far as the audience goes. In San Francisco today, the Desi Comedy Fest, America's largest South Asian comedy festival, back for its 11th season. This year features a lineup of stand-up comedians with roots across the subcontinent, offering sharp, honest, and hilarious takes on identity, family, immigration, and modern life in America. Founder Abhay Nadkarni says Desi Comedy Fest isn't just about comedy, it's about building community, it's about building differences through laughter, breaking stereotypes, and reminding people that humor is a universal language. You can check out the festival tonight at 7:30 at the Improv Comedy Club, 62 South 2nd Avenue in San Jose, and then Sunday at Cobb's, great comedy club Cobb's, 915 Columbus Avenue in San Francisco. That is your comedy news on a summer Friday. Normal episodes all weekend. I've got plenty, and I'll see you tomorrow.